Carbon monoxide can be harmful or fatal if inhaled. Refer to the operator's guide to learn more about it. The engine of your PWC is directly coupled to a drive shaft, which in turn rotates an impeller. This impeller is in a housing where water is drawn up from underneath the watercraft through the intake grate. Then the water flows through the impeller to a venturi. The venturi accelerates the water and produces thrust to move the PWC. Depressing the throttle increases engine speed and therefore watercraft speed. Sea-Doo watercraft have a steerable venturi at the rear of the boat, controlled by handlebars which direct the stream of water from left to right. This is a key characteristic of all jet drive systems and must be kept in mind when operating a Sea-Doo watercraft. Don't forget, directional control is reduced when the throttle is released and lost when the engine is off. Do not release the throttle when trying to steer away from an object. You need the throttle to steer. Your PWC is equipped with the Off-Throttle Assisted Steering System, also called OTAS. This system provides additional maneuverability in an off-throttle situation. The OTAS system is electronically activated and slightly increases the engine speed in some situations. Something else very important is the stopping distance. Generally, boats have no brakes, so you must release the throttle lever and slow down well before you are near the shore or dock. This is extremely important, especially when moving at fast speed, so be extra careful. Collisions are unfortunate events which result in more injuries and deaths than any other type of accidents for watercraft. As an operator, put all the chances on your side. Behave in a manner to avoid collisions. In this chapter, we will provide you with information about collision avoidance. Scan constantly for people, objects, and other watercraft. Be alert for conditions that limit your visibility or block your vision of others. Operate defensively at safe speed and keep a safe distance away from people, objects, and other watercraft. Do not follow directly behind other watercraft. When you're not alone on the water, avoid sharp turns or other maneuvers that make it hard for others to avoid you or understand where you're going. Do not go near others to spray or splash them with water. Avoid areas with submerged objects or shallow water. Take early action to avoid collisions. Remember, generally PWCs and other boats do not have brakes. Do not release the throttle when trying to steer away from an object. You need the throttle to steer. Ride within your limits and avoid aggressive maneuvers to reduce the risk of loss of control, ejection, and collision. Do not attempt maneuvers that may be risky for you, your passengers, or bystanders. This is a high-performance watercraft, not a toy. Sharp turns or jumping wakes or waves can increase the risk of back, spinal injury, paralysis, facial injuries, and broken legs, ankles, and other bones. Do not jump wake or waves. You may not see a boat or person being towed by it. When crossing waves or in choppy water, the operator and passengers can take a partial up position to absorb the shock. Know and follow all local, state, provincial, and federal laws. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. It is your responsibility to get informed. Observe and obey all posted speed limit signs and navigation markers. Let's look at the right-of-way rules, which are probably the most important rules of navigation. In all situations, use common sense. Recommends a minimum operator age of 16 years old. Consider the mental and physical capabilities of the operator and passengers, as well as what supervision and instructions they need during operation. Never ride after consuming drugs or alcohol. Moreover, on the water, it may take less alcohol before you become impaired. Beware of the combination of fatigue and alcohol or drugs. Passengers are included in that rule. their ability to hold on and pay attention may be impaired by alcohol or drugs. Before lending your personal watercraft or letting passengers ride with you, evaluate their condition. You need to know when to say no. Remember that fatigue alone can be a sufficient reason to stay ashore, particularly at the end of the day. Let's take a look at the primary controls found on your PWC. 1. The handlebar. During forward operation, turning the handlebar to the right steers the watercraft to the right, and inversely. Don't forget, directional control is reduced when the throttle is released and lost when the engine is off. 2. The engine start-stop button. The engine start-stop button is located on the left-hand handlebar. Press once to power up the electrical system, and press again to start the engine. Press again to shut down the engine. 3. Engine cutoff switch. This switch is located near the handlebar, depending on the model. To allow engine starting, the tether cord cap, also called a key, must be securely snapped onto the engine cutoff switch. Of course, the other end of the tether cord must be attached to the operator's personal flotation device. IBR lever. If so equipped, the IBR lever on the left-hand side of the handlebar can electronically command the reverse, neutral, and braking by pulling it with your finger. Refer to your operator's guide for all other controls and instrument information. It's always a good idea to practice and get familiar with all controls, functions, and handling characteristics of your PWC before venturing further. First, attach one end of the tether cord to the engine cutoff switch and the other end to yourself using your PFD or a wrist strap. Start the engine and find a suitable area to practice and perform the following exercises. It should be an area without obstacles like other boats or buoys. Start at a slow speed, make circles, figure eights, and release the throttle. Then, increase your speed and repeat this until you feel comfortable. When you release the throttle, the engine returns to idle speed and the watercraft is gradually slowed by water drag. It's a good idea to get a feel for the stopping distance at different speeds. Do not completely release the throttle when trying to steer away from an object. Remember, you need throttle to steer. Practice docking using the throttle, the IBR lever if so equipped, and the steering to become familiar with the response of the PWC and develop good control skills. Learn how the PWC operates in reverse and reacts with steering input. Always perform this exercise at slow speeds. Each operator has a responsibility to ensure the safety of his passengers and of other water users. Ensure that any operator and all passengers know how to swim and how to reboard the PWC from the water. As a driver or passenger, you need to be ready to fall in the water. If you're not comfortable with that idea, stay ashore. Ensure that the number and weight of the occupants does not exceed the boat capacity. Never ride with more passengers than the boat capacity, even if the total weight would be under the limit. All passengers must sit behind the operator to avoid loss of control and severe injury for driver and passengers. Passengers should be tall enough to touch the footrest firmly on each side and be able to hold on properly. Do not bring a passenger or ride as a passenger if those requirements are not met. If you are the passenger, learn how to properly hold on and make sure you hold on. The PWC is equipped with grab handles and a seat strap. As well, you can always hold on to the person in front of you. Make sure your passengers are ready to ride before applying the throttle. They need to hold on when you start and accelerate. Severe internal injuries can occur if water is forced into body cavities as a result of falling into the water or being near a jet thrust nozzle. Never apply the throttle if a passenger is in the water at the rear of the craft. you could expose them to the jet thrust. To reduce the risk of injury, everyone must wear a wetsuit bottom. While riding, maintain communication with your passengers about what is going to happen next. As a passenger, you can help the operator if you maintain your balance and anticipate maneuvers and waves. Tell the driver to slow down if you are uncomfortable or feel out of control. In case of capsizing, to return the watercraft upright, ensure the engine is off and the safety lanyard is not on its post. Then, refer to the label on the stern to find the information on how to turn the watercraft right side up. Grab the inlet grate, step on the bumper rail, and use your weight to rotate the watercraft in the direction shown on the label. Follow the next instruction to reboard on the boat. Do not attempt to start the engine if the boat was capsized for more than 5 minutes. This can damage the engine. Get on from the rear by gripping the handle or the top of the seat and pulling yourself upward until your knee can reach the boarding platform. Grab the seat strap and bring your feet up to the floorboard. The operator should board first, with the passenger holding onto the side to steady the boat. To maintain balance while the passenger boards, the operator should move as close to the console as possible. Never use the jet pump components as a support point. Do not start the engine until the passenger is seated. Then connect the safety lanyard on its post and make sure the other end of the safety lanyard is still attached to your PFD before starting the engine. Check the surrounding area for traffic. Press start and you're on your way. When starting your engine, the reverse gate moves into the neutral thrust position automatically. To engage forward momentum, simply tap on the throttle lever. To engage reverse movement, squeeze the IBR lever on the left side of the handlebar. Although most watercraft have no means of braking, as commonly referred to with land-based vehicles, advanced technologies now permit us to offer models that are equipped with a braking system called IBR. This system uses the reverse gate to control the direction of a calibrated amount of jet thrust, which provides a braking mode that actively reduces the forward velocity, or a reverse mode, which induces a rearward movement to the watercraft. When pulling on the IBR control lever, while the watercraft has some forward speed, the braking mode will engage and generate a deceleration proportional to the exerted force on the IBR lever. The more you pull on the IBR lever, the greater the braking force becomes. Be careful to gradually actuate the IBR lever to adjust intensity of the braking force and simultaneously release the throttle lever. To disengage the braking mode, simply let go of the IBR lever. This active braking can significantly reduce the stopping distance of the watercraft. What the plume of water indicates, and that a greater distance should be maintained between both of you. When braking, riders must brace themselves against the deceleration force to prevent from moving forward on the watercraft and losing balance. The operator should always keep both hands on the handlebars, and all passengers should maintain a firm grip on the handholds, seat strap, or the waist of the person in front of them. When pulling a tube, skier, or wakeboarder, be aware that the person in tow may not be able to avoid the towing PWC if it stops suddenly under aggressive, active braking. Pulling the IBR control lever all the way in while the watercraft is almost stopped engages the reverse mode. To control the rearward velocity of the watercraft, use the throttle lever to increase or decrease the engine RPM. To stop the rearward movement, release both the throttle and the IBR levers. Once the IBR lever has been released, the reverse gate defaults to the neutral thrust position until the throttle is reapplied and forward movement is re-engaged. Practice docking using the IBR and throttle levers.